When you think about improving your English, one of the most powerful steps you can take is to focus on words that people actually use every single day. Today, I want to help you discover 30 essential British English words that aren't just nice to know, but truly useful in everyday conversation. These are the kinds of words you'll hear in the supermarket, on the bus, in a cafe, or even in casual chats with friends. They aren't overly formal or so advanced that you'll rarely have a chance to use them. Instead, they are part of the living, breathing language that makes daily communication in British English feel natural and effortless. Imagine walking into a shop in London and hearing a conversation at the counter. You might catch a customer saying they're chuffed about a bargain they found, or that they've been knackered after a long day. If you've never heard these words before, you might feel a bit lost, even if your grammar is perfect. But once you know what these words mean and how to use them, it's like a light switches on in your brain. You start to understand people more easily, and more importantly, you can join in the conversation with confidence. That's why discovering these essential words is so valuable. They unlock doors to understanding and being understood. It's not just about recognizing the words when someone else uses them. It's about making them part of your own speaking style. For example, instead of always saying very tired, you can say knackered. Instead of very happy, you might say chuffed. These little changes do more than just expand your vocabulary. They make your English sound more authentic and more connected to real British culture. And that's exactly what you need if you want to feel comfortable speaking with native speakers. Every one of the 30 words we'll go through today has been chosen carefully because it appears frequently in daily British English. This means that the time you spend learning them will give you maximum results in your speaking and listening skills. Think of it as a smart investment. Instead of spending hours memorizing rare or outdated words, you're focusing your energy on vocabulary that you can use immediately, whether you're chatting with a friend or writing a quick message. The best way to make these words part of your everyday English is to not just listen to them once, but to hear them, say them, and use them in your own sentences. When I introduce each word, you'll hear the correct British pronunciation so you can practice along. This is important because pronunciation is not just about sounding good. It's about making sure people understand you clearly the first time. Mispronouncing a word can lead to confusion or even funny misunderstandings, so it's worth getting it right from the start. Another reason these words are so essential is that they help you catch the subtle tone and mood of a conversation. British English often uses specific words to express feelings, attitudes, or small details that don't translate directly from other languages. If you know these words, you can pick up on humors, sarcasm, or emotion more easily. That makes conversations feel richer and more engaging. As you listen to each word today, try to imagine where you could use it in your own life. Maybe you'll picture yourself telling a friend that the weather is freezing rather than just cold, or that a party was sensational instead of simply good. By making these mental connections, you'll remember the words more easily and start using them naturally. The goal here is simple. By the end of this session, you'll not only know 30 essential British English words, but you'll also feel confident using them in your everyday life. One of the most important parts of learning a new word is not just knowing what it means, but knowing exactly how to say it. You could have the largest vocabulary in the world, but if people can't quite understand the way you pronounce a word, the message can get lost. That's why pronunciation is such a powerful tool for sounding more confident and natural when you speak British English. The way a word rolls off your tongue can completely change how others perceive your fluency, and with the right practice, you can make your speech clearer, smoother, and far more engaging. Think about the last time you listened to someone speak a language you know well. If they pronounced the words correctly and with ease, it probably made you feel instantly more comfortable listening to them. The same happens when you speak. Clear, accurate pronunciation shows that you know what you're saying, you're sure of yourself, and you're ready to connect with others without hesitation. This confidence is something people can hear. It's not just in the meaning of the words, but in the way your voice carries them. Now, British English pronunciation has its own rhythm, tone, and musicality. It's not just about the sounds of the letters, it's about the flow of the whole word and how it blends with the words around it. Some sounds might feel unfamiliar at first, especially if they don't exist in your native language. You might find certain vowels longer, certain consonants softer, or whole syllables that seem lighter than you expect. This is normal, and with practice, these sounds will start to feel more natural. When I share each of the 30 words with you today, I'll say them slowly first so you can hear every part of the sound, and then I'll say them naturally as they would appear in conversation. This method helps you break down the word into its smallest sounds, and then put it back together the way native speakers use it every day. The goal isn't to sound perfect instantly, but to give your mouth, tongue, and voice the chance to get used to these patterns. Pronunciation practice is also about listening, really listening. When you hear a word in British English, notice the rise and fall of the tone, the way the stress lands on certain syllables, and how the sounds connect. Sometimes the letters in a word might look one way, but the pronunciation is different. This is where your listening skills help you catch those subtle differences so you can copy them accurately. And remember, confidence grows with repetition. At first, you might feel a little self-conscious repeating new words out loud, but the more you practice, the less you'll think about it, and the more it will simply become part of how you speak. I always recommend saying the words aloud several times, even if you're just at home. Try using them in your own sentences right away so they become part of your active vocabulary. Accurate pronunciation doesn't just make you easier to understand, it changes how you feel when you speak. You'll notice that when you say a word correctly, you stand a little taller, your voice is steadier, and your sentences flow more easily. That's the kind of natural confidence that makes a conversation enjoyable for both you and the person you're speaking with. By the time we finish, you won't just know these 30 words. You'll be able to say them with the kind of clarity and ease that makes you sound sure of yourself every time you speak. Learning a new word is exciting, but it can quickly become confusing if its meaning isn't absolutely clear in your mind. That's why it's so important to understand each word with a definition that's simple and easy to remember. When you know exactly what a word means, you can use it with confidence without second guessing yourself or worrying about whether you've chosen the right expression. A clear definition acts like a mental anchor. It keeps the word steady in your memory and ready to use whenever you need it. Sometimes learners make the mistake of memorizing a dictionary definition that's too long, complicated, or full of other difficult words. While it's great to have a precise explanation, the truth is, when you're speaking in real life, you don't have time to recall a complex sentence from memory. What you need instead is a short, direct meaning that you can understand instantly. For example, if I tell you chuffed means very pleased or happy, you immediately know what to do with it. You can connect it to your own experiences. Maybe the last time you passed an exam or got good news, you felt chuffed. That mental link is what will make the word stick. Simple definitions also help you separate words with similar meanings. In English, you might have several words for happy, but each one carries a slightly different feeling or situation. When you break them down into easy explanations, those small differences become clear. Happy is general, excited, is about looking forward to something, and chuffed is that warm satisfaction you get from a personal success. With short, clear meanings, it's easier to choose the right word at the right time. Another reason to keep definitions simple is that it speeds up your learning. The more complicated the explanation, the harder it is to remember. If you can reduce a word's meaning to just a few plain words, your brain can store it faster and retrieve it more easily. This is especially useful when you're learning several new words at once, like the 30 British English words we're focusing on today. By keeping each definition short and sharp, you can hold them all in your mind without feeling overwhelmed. The beauty of a simple definition is that it doesn't remove the richness of the word. It just makes it more accessible. Once you know the basic meaning, you can explore it further through examples, context, and practice. You can see how the word behaves in different sentences, how it changes with tone, and how it fits with other words around it. But the foundation will always be that clear, simple meaning that you understood from the very start. When we go through these words today, I'll make sure each one comes with an explanation that you can grasp immediately. You won't have to stop and think, wait, what does that mean again? You'll know it straight away, and that instant understanding will make it much easier to use the word naturally in conversation. It's a bit like learning someone's name. Once you've got it clearly in your mind, you can greet them without hesitation, and your connection grows from there. By the end of our time together, you'll not only have 30 new British English words in your vocabulary, but you'll also carry them with complete clarity, ready to use whenever the moment is right. It's one thing to know what a word means, but it's a completely different skill to actually use it naturally when speaking. That's why seeing real example sentences is so important. A definition gives you the meaning, but a sentence shows you the life of the word, how it behaves, where it belongs, and how it interacts with other words around it. When you hear or read a word in context, you begin to understand its rhythm, its tone, and even the emotion it can carry. Think about the difference between learning that knackered means very tired, and actually hearing someone say after running that marathon, I was completely knackered. Suddenly, the meaning becomes more vivid. You can picture the situation, feel the exhaustion, and understand exactly when it's appropriate to use that word. Without that context, you might hesitate or use the word in the wrong place, but with it, you know how to slot it perfectly into your own speech. Real example sentences also help you remember words more easily because they connect the word to a story or a situation. Our brains are wired to remember stories much better than isolated facts. If you just memorize the meaning of banter, it might slip away after a few days. But if you hear it in a friendly conversation like, we had a bit of banter in the office this morning, your mind attaches that word to the image of people joking and laughing together. That makes it much harder to forget. Another great thing about example sentences is that they help you learn the small but important details of grammar and usage. You might discover whether a word usually appears with a certain preposition, or whether it's more common in informal settings. For example, skint is a casual way to say you have no money. So a sentence like, I can't come out tonight, I'm skint, not only tells you the meaning, but also lets you hear the level of formality and the way it's used in everyday British conversation. When you rely only on definitions, there's a risk of misunderstanding the word's true function. Some words have multiple meanings depending on the context, and sentences reveal which meaning is intended. Take the word certain. It can mean sure, as in I'm certain we'll win, or it can describe something specific, as in a certain type of flower. Without seeing both in sentences, you might only learn one meaning and miss the other entirely. In our session, for each of the 30 British English words, I'll not only tell you what it means, but also give you an example sentence you could imagine hearing in real life. This could be at a coffee shop, in a casual text message, or in a friendly chat at work. By hearing the word where it naturally belongs, you'll get a stronger sense of its personality and the situations it fits into best. The real magic happens when you start creating your own example sentences. As soon as you hear a new one from me, try making your own version based on your life. If the example is, "She was chuffed with her exam results," you might change it to, "I was chuffed when my team won the match." That personal connection will make the word truly yours, and you'll be ready to use it without hesitation. By the end, you won't just have a list of words and meanings. You'll have a living, breathing vocabulary that you've seen in action and can confidently bring into your own conversations. One of the best things about focusing on essential British English words is that it doesn't just make your conversations smoother. It can also give your exam performance a real boost. Whether you're preparing for IELTS, TOEIC, Cambridge, or any other test, vocabulary plays a huge role in how well you score. Examiners aren't just listening for correct grammar. They want to hear variety, accuracy, and a natural flow in your speech and writing. The more words you know, and the better you can use them, the more you can express your ideas clearly and precisely. That's the difference between a good answer and a great one. In exams, vocabulary can show up in many ways. It could be in a speaking test where you need to describe a photo, explain your opinion, or tell a short story. Using the right words makes your answer more vivid and engaging. Instead of saying the room was very clean, you could say the room was spotless. That one change instantly makes your description stronger and shows the examiner you have a richer vocabulary. The same applies in writing tasks. Choosing more precise and natural words helps you stand out and score higher. But vocabulary isn't just about exams. It's just as important in daily life, especially if you're living, working, or traveling in an English-speaking environment. When you know a wider range of words, you can understand more of what's going on around you. You'll catch the meaning in conversations, TV shows, podcasts, or even casual social media posts. And when it's your turn to speak, you'll be able to respond with words that fit the situation perfectly. That makes every interaction smoother and more enjoyable. The great thing is that the same set of words can serve you in both settings, formal and informal. Many of the 30 words we're focusing on today can appear naturally in exam answers and in real-life chats. For example, generous can describe a friend in a speaking test, but it's also something you might say when talking about a colleague who offered to help you. By learning words that have flexibility, you save time and effort because you're not trying to remember separate lists for different situations. Improving your vocabulary quickly doesn't mean rushing through long lists of words. It's about learning the right words in a way that sticks. That's why I'm giving you each word with its meaning, correct pronunciation, and an example sentence. When you combine those three elements, understanding, saying, and using the word, you remember it faster and more effectively. This approach works whether you have months to prepare for an exam or just a few weeks before an important trip or presentation. Another key to speed is repetition in real contexts. Once you learn a word, use it that same day. Slip it into a conversation, write it in a short diary entry, or even say it aloud to yourself while describing something you see. The more times you use a word, the faster it becomes a natural part of your vocabulary. That's true for exams too. If you've practiced saying a word several times in your own sentences, it will come to you easily under exam pressure. The confidence that comes from having a strong vocabulary is hard to beat. In an exam, it means you can focus on sharing your ideas instead of searching for the right word. In daily life, it means you can join in conversations, share stories, and connect with people without hesitation. And the more you practice, the more this vocabulary will feel like it belongs to you, ready to use whenever you need it. By the end of our session, you'll have a set of words that can help you shine in your exams and make every conversation in daily life richer and more rewarding. One of the most effective ways to truly own a new word is to practice speaking it out loud, not just once, but several times until it feels natural in your mouth. Reading the word silently or hearing someone else say it is helpful, but it's only when you actively speak it yourself that it starts to become part of your own language. This is because speaking engages your memory, your muscles, and your listening all at the same time, making the learning process much stronger. When you speak along with me, you're doing more than just copying sounds. You're building a connection between the meaning of the word and the way it's pronounced. Think of it as training two skills at once. You're locking the meaning into your mind so you can recall it quickly, and you're training your voice and mouth to produce the correct sounds without hesitation. This double practice is what makes the word yours, so it's ready to use whenever you need it. It's important to remember that pronunciation isn't just about individual sounds. It's also about the rhythm, stress, and tone of the word. British English has its own musical pattern, and speaking along allows you to copy that pattern exactly. If I say vibrant with the stress on the first syllable, and you repeat it immediately, your brain captures both the meaning, full of life and energy, and the sound pattern that makes it instantly recognizable to native speakers. When you practice in this way, don't be afraid to exaggerate the sounds at first. Open your mouth fully, stretch the vowel sounds, and put clear emphasis where it's needed. This might feel a little strange, but it's like rehearsing a dance. Move slowly before doing it at full speed. Once your muscles are used to the movement, you can say the word naturally and confidently without overthinking it. Another powerful technique is to repeat the word in short, simple sentences right after you learn it. For example, if the word is generous, you could say, "She is generous," then, "My neighbor is generous," and finally, "People in my town are very generous." This repetition in different contexts reinforces the meaning and pronunciation together. It also helps you practice forming complete thoughts with the new word, which is exactly how you'll use it in real conversation. Speaking along also keeps you actively involved in the learning process. Instead of passively listening, you're taking part, matching your timing to mine, and training your ear to catch every small detail in the sound. Over time, this habit makes you a sharper listener and a more confident speaker. You'll notice that when you hear these words in real conversations, you recognize them instantly and can respond without hesitation. The best part is that this type of practice doesn't take hours. You can do it in short bursts throughout your day. A few minutes of speaking along with the lesson is often enough to make a big difference. And because we're focusing on words you'll actually use in everyday life, the more you repeat them now, the more they'll show up naturally in your speech later. By the time we finish, you won't just know how these 30 British English words are pronounced. You'll be able to say them fluently, with full understanding of their meaning, and with the confidence to use them whenever the moment calls for it. And that brings us to the end of our lesson today. We've gone on a journey through 30 essential British English words, words that will not only make your everyday conversations richer, but also help you sound more confident, more natural, and more connected to the language. You've discovered their meanings in a way that's simple and clear, practiced their correct pronunciation, seen them in real, life example sentences, and learned how they can boost your skills both in exams and in daily life. Most importantly, you've spoken along, building a bridge between knowing the words and truly owning them. Remember, vocabulary isn't something you learn once and forget. It's something you grow through use. So, don't just keep these words in your notes. Bring them into your speaking and writing today. Use them when you talk to friends, when you send a message, or even when you're thinking in English. Every time you use them, you make them a permanent part of your language. Thank you for joining me and taking this step to strengthen your English. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and keep adding to your vocabulary, because every new word you master is another tool that helps you express yourself fully. I'll see you in the next lesson, and until then, keep learning and keep growing.